We've all heard it said that ignorance is bliss. You know, what that implies is that if you are blissful, or if you have a blissful life, or if everything about you is bliss, that you must be ignorant. It does, doesn't it? I mean, we've never come out and just said that, but when we say, oh well, ignorance is bliss, we always say it as if those who are blissful must be ignorant. And that's why they are blissful and enjoy their state of being or enjoy their life. Because if they were more knowledgeable and knowing like us, they would be as miserable as we are. Welcome back to Homesteading Off the Grid, guys. This is my first morning ramble in a few days because we have been having some severe internet problems. Upload speed has been terrible. We've had to go into town to do some uploads. But I wanted to come out here today and talk to you about this whole ignorance is bliss thing. Yeah, I'm back. That big woodpecker with the red head. What are those called? Starts with a P. Look at this, digressing already, 1 minute and 6 seconds into it. Okay, so guys, hopefully by the time you see this video, it's not midnight. I'd like for this to actually be a morning ramble. But here's what's going on. That video I made like 3 months ago, 2.5 months ago, about why I quit the post office, my job there and all that, for some reason has been going viral in the last couple of days and getting hundreds of new subscribers a day. And welcome to all the new subscribers. Thank you for being here. Happy to have you. I'm reading the comments, the just total nightmares these folks are sharing. Most of them are former postal employees or current postal employees or other people sharing their work-related nightmares. And I read the comments, guys. I don't always comment on most of them because there's just too many. But and one of the comments was, it's reminding me of other things I'd forgotten about when I worked at the post office, like finding people's tax return checks underneath the truck seats in the postal trucks and stuff. Just all kinds of crazy stuff. But the question I kept asking myself is, and I was talking to Dearly about this morning, is why do people stay in jobs or positions that make them so miserable? They're clinically depressed, they're on meds, they're sick in the mornings before they go to work. And I know the answer, guys, because I used to be the same way. Number one, here in America especially, it's because our financial circumstances kind of dictate that we must, or we at least must for a long time. And before I left the post office, I kind of had to stick it out a little bit longer than I wanted to because financially I feared I might not be able to leave. Looking back on it, I knew I could have left earlier than I did, but again, my family is the most important thing in the world to me, and I didn't want to give up what we have here by leaving too soon. But once upon a time, before I left the U.S. for nearly 10 years, lived overseas, lived within other cultures and all these things, I probably would have never left that postal job where I was miserable because I had it ingrained in my brain that that's part of being mature, that's part of being responsible, and that's part of being a content middle-class American. You work at a job you're not really fond of that actually might make you miserable, but that's life, that's how it is. Suck it up, buttercup, this is the real world. No, that's not the real world. And in case you are new, well, I won't even go into that, but that's just the wind. I always got to look around me here. There's bears and all kinds of stuff around here, but the sun's up, so I think I'm pretty safe. So I've talked about this before in other videos. I know a lot of folks here are new, so I'm just going to talk about this again. It's about a man I met. You know, I lived in the Philippines for almost 6 years. And the first couple of years there, I really struggled with a lot of the culture. But one of the things that really just used to burn me up was to look around and see people that had so little, yet who were so happy. I couldn't understand why these poor people in this third world country who lived in these little bamboo shacks / huts that they built themselves in a day on a beach, who didn't have, I mean, these people, those of them who did work made less than $2 a day. Their diet was the same thing every day. In the mornings they would eat fish that they caught in the sea and rice. In the afternoons they would eat vegetables that they grew themselves and rice. And in the evenings for dinner, they would eat a combination of vegetables they grew themselves and fish they caught in the sea and rice. Throughout the day, if they were hungry, they might eat a papaya that they picked off the tree that grew in their yard from where maybe 6 months ago they'd thrown down some papaya seeds. Maybe they'd crack open a coconut that fell in their yard from a coconut tree that'd been there for a generation or two. Maybe a banana. And I just kept, but I would get frustrated. I'm like, where are the Twinkies? Where is the prime rib from the Outback Steakhouse? These things don't exist. That made my mouth water. These things don't exist here. And these people are so happy despite this. Where are the big screen TVs? Guys, they didn't have electricity. I lived in a place for almost 2 years where we didn't have running water or electricity. The only running water we had is when it rained because the roof leaked. Our shingles were made out of like the leaves from the coconut tree. So I had these frustrations, my American mind, and I reverted to, well, ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss. They're happy because they don't know what's going on out there. They're happy because, you know, they don't have that big flat screen TV telling them, think this way, buy this way, you've got to do this to be who you can truly be. And I would often go for walks on the beaches in the mornings. There was an older man. He was retired. He lived maybe 300 or 400 yards up the beach from us in a hut. I enjoyed talking to this man because even though he was hours and hours and hours out from the closest airport or city, I mean, they call it the provinces. We here in the West would call it the jungles. We were out in the middle of the jungle. But I found this one man who was 70-ish, who had a college education. He was a Filipino man. He was a retired chief of police from the next city, the closest city, which was 3 hours away, or 2.5. And I liked talking to him. He spoke perfectly good English. He read a lot of the same books I read, and he lived here in this little hut on the beach. And he had several children, but and I've shared this story before, a lot of you have heard it, but he would tell me about his son who worked in the U.S. He had a son and a daughter who both had nursing degrees, and he worried about his son. He was happy with how his daughter's life turned out. He was very proud of her, but he worried about his son. And I asked him, why do you worry about your son? He goes, well, you know, my son lives in the U.S. I forget where, Texas or Jersey. You know, he makes a lot of money. He works all the time, 6-7 days a week. He's working 60-70 hours a week. I talk to him on Skype or whatever, however they communicated. He's always trying to send me money. I tell him, no, I don't need money. Don't send me any money. You need your money to pay your taxes. And I know you got those car payments and your mortgages. I couldn't imagine having your mortgage. Keep your money, son. I don't need it. Thank you for your willingness to send it back. So he's worried about his son. And again, I'd been there less than 2 years and I'm still adjusting to the culture and I still have my American mindset. And I'm like, well, it sounds like your son's doing great. He's like, my son's doing great. My son can't sleep, even though he's physically exhausted from his work, he's mentally exhausted from the stress. But because of this stress and anxiety, he can't sleep a wink. I'm worried to death for my son. I'm like, well, what about your daughter with a nursing degree? How's she doing? And he's like, well, she's doing so much better. She's great. She's at peace with herself. She's at peace with life. She's at peace with the universe. She has no stress. She's content. Her needs are met. I'm like, well, where's she? Where's she? Texas, Jersey? He goes, no, she's right over there. And he points over, and off to the side is a girl about my age, maybe a few years younger. I was in my mid to late 30s at the time. I'm 44 now. There was a girl probably in her early 30s on her knees in the garden, in her father's garden, there in the Philippines on the beach. I'm like, well, she doesn't work in a hospital? Did she make it to the U.S.? Did she come back? She said, no, she's never gone to the U.S. and she probably never will. I'm like, why not? He said, she's here. She loves it here. She works in my gardens. She lives here with me and her mother. And, you know, she has no stress. She's content. I'm like, but she doesn't have, she's never driven a car in her life. She doesn't have this big flat screen TV. And her dad's like, it doesn't matter. What does any of that matter? My daughter is happy where she is, doing what she does, and she is stress-free. She has a life of bliss. And again, at that time, the American mindset of me wanted to say, well, of course she's blissful. Look, she's ignorant. Well, is she really ignorant? She has a nursing degree. She could have come to the U.S. and been a nurse probably in any hospital like her brother who was doing it. So, ignorance is bliss. We say that, and really we're kind of implying that those who are blissful must be ignorant. That is not true. And it took me nearly 40 years to figure that out. So guys, I guess I'm kind of addressing a lot of the folks who share with me how miserable they are And I appreciate your story, and I appreciate adding to the conversation that a 37-minute long video and thousands of people every hour are watching it. It's crazy. Most of you are here because of the annoying neighbor in the crayon video, and everybody's like, who would watch a guy sit in his field and talk to himself for 18 minutes? I guess 3.6 million people as of now. But for some reason, tens of thousands of people a day are now watching a guy sit in his field and talk to himself for 37 minutes. That's twice as long. It's blowing my mind too. I don't get it. I mean, I'm making this video with my wife's obsolete iPhone 6 that we bought in Manila many years ago before we came to the US, that she can't even get internet access on here. Well, no, she can get internet access, but she can't get a number to make calls because of international security codes or something like that. The other videos, I mean, some of them, like the one with the neighbor in the crayon, I made on a digital camera we got at a thrift store for $3. Much like this shirt. What brand is it? I can't even read that. Columbia. Yeah, Columbia. We get these nice Columbia shirts at a thrift store for $2.99 because we're thrifty and we're blissful. Doesn't mean I'm ignorant, though the jury may still be out on that one. But my point is, I don't know how millions of people come to see these, or what's getting ready to surpass 100,000 as of this morning with this postal video. We're making this stuff on $3 cameras from thrift stores or obsolete cameras from Manila. But I digress so much. I always lose my train of thought. That's why these are called the morning rambles. But I guess my point is, going into other cultures, living in other parts of the world, I've come back now and I see so many people who are living miserably when they don't have to be. Again, as I mentioned in that postal video, there are more jobs in this economy right now here in the US than there are people to fill these jobs. And this is the first time this happened since just after World War II. Folks, if you're miserable, if you don't like where you are, it doesn't have to be that way. The next time you do get a day off, take some time to look for another job, because I'm going to show you the beauty of living a blissful life. I'm out here chopping wood. We're doing okay with all the things we got going on. Our needs are met. Okay, we're not e-begging. We're not saying, hey, go look at our Patreon channel and pay us $4 a month and we'll show you a special video that only you and the 12 other people who pay us $4 a month get to see. We don't do that. We don't charge fees here on YouTube, and we don't e-beg on, what's that other one they're using? GoFundMe or whatever. We're just living a life of bliss, living below our means instead of above them, so that we can continue to do so. And there's nothing ignorant about it. Look at these fields. It's almost Halloween. Maybe I'll have another scary story coming up soon. But the green is turning to brown, the flowers are gone. But because I'm living a blissful life, you know what I got to notice today when I came up here to do this morning ramble? The very last black-eyed Susan of the year. And some purple flowers right there behind it. I have 6 acres and these are the only flowers left. And I actually got to take the time to notice them, because I'm not stressed out. I'm not working like a slave to make someone else rich. I'm being true to myself and I'm being true to my family. And I get to see stuff like this instead of a cubicle or a time clock that I despise. So guys, this whole concept of ignorance is bliss. There's nothing ignorant about being blissful. Bliss is bliss. And if you're not happy, make a change. I did. I saw 2 paths in the wood. I took the one less traveled. Now I'm lost as all get out. And in all seriousness, I'm not lost. I can promise you that. Just at times I fear a lot of the world might be lost. Thanks for being with us here at Homesteading Off the Grid. Be sure to check back with us for more next time.